The conversation is on building wealth on a 9 to 5. Building wealth on a 9 to 5. So before we zone in into the specifics of the 9 to 5, if I just abstract out the concept of building wealth, wealth is something that many people are pursuing. It is one of the reasons why we have a lot of pressure in the world. It is one of the reasons why there's so much crime. Some people have sold their soul to it. Nothing else will suffice. And unfortunately, many people are deeply frustrated and lost themselves in the journey. And they still cannot find what they are looking for. So the question therefore is there a formula for wealth building? And more importantly, to the specifics of this week's conversation, can you build wealth on a 9 to 5? It is not likely that we will be able to finish this content today, but I'm hoping it will be worth the while, whatever number of episodes that this is going to take. So before I get into the slides or get to the conversation, and even get into the story, I want to make a distinction, and I'd like to see contribution. What is the difference between wealth and riches? Feel free, unmute, and just chime. Is there a difference between wealth and riches? Is there a difference between being wealthy and being rich? Are they the same? I'm waiting for contributions. There are many smart people here. I don't know how I see you.
Okay.
Good evening. Sarah, welcome. Is there a difference? Yes, John, go ahead.
So I think wealth generates riches. That's the way I want to see it. I know they are very, very, very related, but I strongly believe that wealth generates riches, so to say.
Okay, so John, are big things that wealth generates riches. Okay, yes. Any other contribution? What's the difference between wealth and riches? They say man is wealthy. They say man is rich. Are they the same? What's the difference? Hello? Anybody home? Gamaliel, say something. What's the difference between wealth and riches? Donald, are you here? What is the difference between wealth?
Well, boss, I'm here, but I'm indisposed. I can't talk. Yeah.
Okay,
thanks.
No problem at all. Uncle T, I see you. Omongumi is also here. Ruth, I mean, that should be Okpeyemi Adodo. I need contribution. What is the difference between wealth and riches? Are they the same? Uncle Tayo, what do you think? Wealth, riches, are they the same? What's the relationship? Ibrahim, you are here. Any relationship between wealth and rich and being rich, being wealthy and being rich, wealth and riches? Wow, I was expecting more conversations on this matter. This is why we wake up every day and we go to work when we don't feel like, yes. Okay, I thought Omongumi wanted to say something.
Yes. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir. Yes, sir. So I think they are synonymous. I think wealth is abundance.
You think they're exactly the same? Yes.
They are synonymous to me.
Okay, they can pass for the same thing. Do you think there's any difference?
Yeah. Well, I really don't see a difference between the two.
Thank you for sharing. Yes. Wealth, riches, Okpeyemi. What's the difference between wealth and riches? Yes, Sarah, please go ahead. Sarah, please go ahead.
Good evening, sir.
I'm coming back to you. Yes, go ahead, Sarah.
Yes, sir. So, in my own opinion, someone who is rich has a lot of money in his possession. That is to say, riches can be measured by the amount of money one possesses. Why a wealthy person, money inclusive, and every other possession, land, houses, and every other thing he has makes him wealthy. Whereas a rich person has a lot of money and may not necessarily have every other thing.
Okay, so for you, wealth is more than just cash, just more than money. There are more things
That's
involved
it,
with
sir.
wealth. All right. Thank you for sharing. Yes. Gamaliel, go ahead.
Yes, sir. So for me, I think wealth is more enduring. But riches is underscored by virtue of how much substance you have, usually tangible substance. But for wealth, apart from having the riches, you must also be resourceful enough to be able to coordinate that wealth to be able to coordinate that riches in a way that it ends up being valuable to you. It ends up making up your net worth in a manner of speaking.
Very well said. Thank you, Gamaliel. Okpayemi, you were going to say something.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Okay, I think most people have shared what I wanted to say, but riches and between being rich and being wealthy, I think wealthy someone is wealthy is like on a long-term basis, like, and riches can be limited. Like it could be the spending capacity of someone, what they have the capacity to buy, to acquire. But a wealthy person is probably someone that has many investments, and it's not only in terms of money, but he has other assets to his name. Thank you.
Well said. Thank you very much for sharing. So I think we landed at the right spot. I have Tayo's comment here. Tayo says that riches is about having a high income, while wealth speaks to your net worth. Riches is temporal, but wealth is more sustainable. Very well said. So riches speaks to having cash, having assets that you can use right now. You may be rich today and tomorrow you may not be. Usually this is tied to income that is generated, money that is coming in. By the etymology, riches is more short term. Riches is more here and now. Wealth speaks to something that has accumulated over time, like many people have said, that has different elements to it. It also even includes goodwill, it includes the intangibles. So when we are talking about building wealth, we are not talking about you making 5 million. We are not talking about you making 10 million. We are saying, how do you get to the point where you are not just able to deal with the financial requirements you have right now, you are building something that is more sustainable, something that is more lasting. And that is what we are saying. Is this possible on a 9 to 5? Meaning, is it possible as an employee? If yes, how? So before again I get into the content, please go to the chat box if you have the opportunity. Do you believe that you can be wealthy from a 9 to 5? Or do you think that the only people that can be wealthy are the entrepreneurs? So if you believe you can be wealthy on a 9 to 5, do yes. If you think it is only the entrepreneurs that can be wealthy, please do a no. Okay, I have the yes now at 57. Yes. Can you be healthy? Can you be wealthy on a 9 to 5? Okay, so we will see how that answer plays out. And by the time we are done, I'm going to come back. Donald is saying, no, you can't. Okay, I will show you how you can be wealthy in a 9 to 5, because I believe that, oh, Atito's eventually came to the party. So I believe that you can be wealthy on a 9 to 5. And that is what we are going to be exploring for the next couple of episodes. And as usual, we are going to start with this quote that the first step to building wealth, it does not even matter whether you are an entrepreneur or you are working as an employee, is to learn how to spend less than you make. And before I get into the content, let me say that, yes, statistics, as I will show down the line, suggest that it is 4 times easier to become wealthy from entrepreneurship. Believe me, it's also 4 times, maybe 10 times easier to become bankrupt from entrepreneurship. So the same way accountants will talk about risk and return, it is
You're very right.
It is 4 times easier for you to be wealthy as an entrepreneur. It is also 4 times, maybe 10 times easier to become bankrupt. As in, the only thing you will have will be the shirt on the back of your back, on the back of your neck. Everything will be taken. So it's about risk and return. And one of the things I'm hoping to get away from this is the mindset that is being peddled out there, that the only way, no, it's not the only way. The easier way, the more controllable way, yes. Maybe the faster way. I'm not even sure if it's easier. I think the better word is it is faster, yes. But again, as that road can lead fast to becoming wealthy, it can also lead fast to becoming dead, as in physically dead, because the pressure is huge. So, and in my journey, I found that entrepreneurship is not for everybody, unfortunately, no matter how you look at it. Therefore, the message for this video is, because you think entrepreneurship is not for you, at least not now, it's not a sentence for you to now throw up your hands and your arms in the sky and make it look like, oh no, it can't happen. So the conversation for the next couple of weeks is, if there is a way, how do we find that way? Typically, like this is about experience sharing, and we try to start with stories because it sinks. In this week's story, I present to you Sam. All right? Sam is a young lady who's been working for about 6 years, and because she's such a very star performer, she's risen through the ranks to get to where she is today. And she's happy. She's comfortable, got the basics that she needs, and she's cool about it. But what happens is, part of the problem of our age is all this make-believe that goes out there. And I know enough to tell you authoritatively that, please, don't believe every status that you see. Don't believe every post that you see on social media. Some people are having high blood pressure when they go to LinkedIn. Some people are having issues when they go to Facebook. Please don't believe it. Many of those things are not real. Some people just enjoy, and I don't know whether they're doing it to spy people or they are doing it to just encourage themselves. When you see people paint what they do, as in people who are begging for money, literally asking friends for support, when you read their profile as to how they've hyped and packaged and are presenting themselves, you just shake your head that ignorance is a problem for those who do not know, and they cannot sleep because they've read this guy has gotten 30 certificates. And I started this job here, and I was at this conference, and I was on this cruise, and this. Many, many times when you hear the backstory to those things that you see, you realize that you actually are living a better life. You are in a better state, better position than most of these people that are giving you high blood pressure unnecessarily. So in our story today, Sam too was not immune from this thing I just said. So she has this friend that is always on social media, seems to be living the life, seems to be having the right place, be in the right places, seems to be making the right moves, and there is now pressure everywhere. Good enough, Sam is very clear in her head that entrepreneurship is not for her. Maybe she's tried it a couple of times and she realized that, no, I don't have the energy for this, I don't have the liver for this. So now she's torn between these two variables. On one hand, she's anxious and desirous of being more. She's anxious and desirous of stretching ourselves and getting to the point where working and getting committed to jobs will not be for bills, where it will be for the pleasure, and she has the freedom to really do more and not necessarily be worrying about how she's going to pay for it. But she also knows that entrepreneurship is not for her. So how does she then transition, or how does she get to the point where she can have that life that gives her satisfaction that, yes, she's living the kind of life she wants to live? Now, that is the topic, that's the background for the conversation today. And before I fly a little lower into this conversation, I would like to speak about contentment, and I would like to speak about your paradigm for life. Contentment is a very important virtue. And this is a little detour from wealth or riches. The truth of the matter is that if you do not learn to be content with what you have as you chase what you want, the second point I'm making about life as a journey will become very, very painful. Everybody on this call, everybody that will watch this video later down the line, please know that to wanting, there is no end. To desiring, there is no end. To chase, there is no end. Something happened around my area a couple of days back. A very, very energetic woman. I was even surprised to find out after she passed that she was 72, 71 or 72. But she was full of life, very, very energetic. I heard that she runs a small shop. And then 2 days before she died, she went to stock up for her shop, bought plenty things for sale. The very next day, she fell ill. The day after that, meaning 2 days after she went out shopping, she passed. And that is how life is. Life is a journey. We have been configured by the environment to think about it as a race, to think about it as only the finish line, to think about it in terms of this or that we are chasing. We forget that the bigger pleasure of life is learning to enjoy the journey. So if you don't build contentment into your paradigm, you will forever be stressed, because there will always be something more that you can have. It is in the ontology of the human being. The same way you find excuse being native, the same way is the same way you find us always wanting more. So contentment is not the absence of ambition. Contentment is pleasurable and ambition, controlled ambition, where you are happy with what you have. You savor it, you relish it, you taste it, you immerse yourself in it, you enjoy it to the maximum while you are pursuing what you want to get. If you make life all about getting and getting and getting, your life will be shallow, your life may end up being meaningless. And like the story of the woman that I told, you will get to your departure bus stop, and believe me, wealth or riches, you have no idea what will happen to it after you are gone. Solomon was the one that was saying that who even knows the kind of man that's going to come and inherit everything. So in pursuit of wealth, in pursuit of riches, please, the first thing to learn is contentment. Somebody says, can the volume be increased? I am literally at my highest volume now if I'm not going to lose my voice. You may want to check your side, Sarah, or I do not know, or see if you can find a speaker to boost what you have, but I'm literally at my highest decibel now.
I can hear you very well.
Sorry about that. So we just want to check your side. So contentment is very important, and this is not about church. It's just about the way life is. Because if your life is wired about what you want, there, it will never stop. But the point when you know that there is no end to wanting. So as you get this, relish it. As you have it, enjoy it. In fact, if you are honest with yourself, you know that the life that you live today was the life that you dreamt about 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago. So if you don't learn contentment, then you will always be troubled, you will always be pressured. I mean, I do not know about you. For when we were in secondary school, was like, oh, that we can just clear this O level. Oh, this almighty O level, just 5 credit, just 5 credit. Oh, just 5 distinctions. Let's just pass this exam once. And then the next is, once you get it, oh, how do we get JAM? Then how do we get admission? Oh, if only I can finish this degree program. Oh, if only I can get a job. Oh, if only I can get a family. Oh, it will not end. But when you learn contentment and you realize that life is a journey to be enjoyed, and it's a journey that comes in different seasons. So today, you probably are having all that you desire, and then tomorrow there's something pressing that looks like it's missing. When you add contentment to it, your life is easier, your life is smoother, it's more enjoyable. So if we fly back now to what we're talking about, we have Sam, we have Vanessa. Sam is the employee, Vanessa is the entrepreneur. And Sam is wondering, I love the life that Vanessa is living, but I cannot be an entrepreneur. So am I sentenced into always just chasing the paycheck week after week, month after month? Or is there something I can do to also acquire financial freedom, which comes from being rich and, more importantly, being wealthy? That is the conversation for today. So if we then go deeper a bit into what wealth is, if you look at what I've projected, emphasis is on accumulation. Wealth is possible. Wealth has the etymology of something that has been accumulated over time. And not just that it has been accumulated, it's been positioned in a manner that for everything you take out, it is generating a replacement, which is one of the big difference with riches. Many times riches is a status of where you are at a particular time. You want to be wealthy. Wealth has the etymology of saying that not only has it accumulated over time, it can increase. And it is not directly, the increase is not necessarily on the amount of energy that you, the owner, are exerting per time. So what we are saying is, how do you get wealthy as an employee? That's some of what we are saying now. As typical, we like to scatter around research. And I found this week's research quite interesting. Okay? The first research I'm showing here is very interesting. And this is where contentment I was talking about comes in. It says that there is an inverse relationship between how much time you spend buying luxury items and how much time you spend on planning and working on the future of your finance. Meaning, your mind has to choose where it is. You have to choose where you are putting your mind. If you are focusing more on the new shoe, the new bag, the new car, the new this, science and research is showing that people who are consumed by purchasing those things, they are not able to have the space in their head to plan for how to become wealthy, how to become rich. And it is not far-fetched. All you have is one mind that has only 24 hours. So the more time you spend chasing after items and consumption, the less time you have to focus on planning and production. Interesting research there. The second is that, and I mentioned this already, there is no gainsaying. Entrepreneurship will lead you 4 times faster to being rich and possibly wealthy than if you are an employee. But remember, it is not 100%. So, and something they are not saying here is also that the same way you are entrepreneurs are 4 times more likely to be millionaires, is also the same way they are maybe 20 times more likely to be bankrupt. It's about risk and returns. They go together, all right? Another research that caught our attention here is saying that between taking risk and doing analysis, there is an inverse relationship. Again, simple logic, analysis paralysis. You want to understand and understand and understand and then understand again before you move. You will never move. And I will touch on this when we go to the DIY section, like I hope you are expecting that. Because the truth of the matter is, if you want to be wealthy, you must be ready to lose some money. This is not about careless risk. This is not about being reckless in your spending. This is saying that they go together. If you are afraid of water pouring, you will never pour. So if you want to make money, as we get to it down the line, you must be ready for some measure of risk, because without risk, there are no returns. So this research is saying that those who are too consumed by financial analytics, measuring it, dimensioning it, they are less likely going to take financial risk. And of course, when you are not taking risk, you cannot expect any heavy returns. This is also interesting. Self-discipline is more important than IQ. There are many smart people, but who are not smart when it comes to money. I think there's a book they call The Smart Money Woman. They are not smart when it comes to money. They see, they spend. Meanwhile, the IQ is very high. So self-discipline is the name of this game when it comes to building wealth. And the last research I'm going to talk about today has to do with the fact that, interestingly, research has also shown that you can make money you can become wealthy on a 9 to 5. But the research listed 5 things that have been found to predispose employees to becoming wealthy. And we'll go through this in detail as we go along. The first is to learn to save. The second is to learn to invest. The third is to learn to multiply your streams of income. The fourth, which is where most people miss it, is to expand and improve your capacity, your value add. How are you improving your at the value you are bringing to whatever you are doing today. We will go through this in more details as we go along. And the last on this list is that you need to stay away from debt. So before I continue, are there comments about this research that I've shown? Any comments? Everything we've said so far.
Maybe
yes, please go ahead.
Maybe the only one is the last one, which says avoiding debt.
Yes.
So there are some of the research says those that really made wealth, and you have touched about it a little bit. You even mentioned it like just like 2 minutes ago. So you can't make more water if you can't drop water. So, but maybe the last one works more in emerging economy, and it's better off in people that have a well-developed, structured economy, where you can easily take some debts and then, you know, use it to scale up and then make up later. So, which is, I mean, I'm sure most very wise, wealthy people will say, just if you are taking debt, you must be very, very sure of the type of debt. And that would be another topic. So avoiding it may be a tricky, because there are wealth that were created and they were at the long run, it was massive, but at the beginning, it was some wealth. But again, I'm saying, which I'm sure a lot of experienced people will say, it may not be possible in emerging economy where there is no structure.
Gamaliel is also agreeing with you that debt is also tax-free. Let's talk about this. So when it says avoid debt, what do you make of that? I can see somebody with Shegun.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Well, yeah, debt is tax-free, but I mean, it's not a case of emerging economies or whichever economies. It's a function of what kind of debt that are you taking. So avoiding debt may not just be totally globalistic or to just generalize. Even in emerging economies, there are debts that you can take that you can leverage with. All that you need to do, like he said earlier, is that you take calculated risk. If you can't take risk, you can't make money. But what kind of debt are you taking is the issue that you really want to consider. But the fact and the truth of the matter anyway is that even when you are taking calculated risk, you can't play God over some of the over some of the decisions that you take, right? You do all your arithmetic, you do your calculations, you realize that okay, let me just put it this way. You don't take debt for liabilities. You take debt for assets. For instance, I just left a class on mortgage, right? If you want to take a loan for mortgage, go for it. As long as you have the parameters and you are qualified. Mortgage is a debt, it's a kind of debt anyway, but the asset is the collateral. So if anything happens at the end of the day, yes, if you're not careful, you lose anyway because you would have made some payments. But if you go for a calculated mortgage debt, I mean, you are covered for the rest and your capital will appreciate, you are better off in the long run. So I mean, I would also want to agree with you that totally saying avoiding debt generalized, it may not, but at the same time, it works everywhere globally. Thank you.
That is Mr. Meaningful. I was just going to even introduce you. Thank you for making our time. It's a real estate enthusiast, guru, practitioner, and we are happy to introduce you to the group. Anybody here trying to do anything in real estate, you could reach out to him. But you know there are macroeconomic risks, and I'm saying this because I also need to you don't ride on what tmak has said. When it comes to real estate, there are real issues that are peculiar to us in this part of the world. You need to check and be clear about those issues before you proceed. But if you are looking for somebody who can give you guide and help and lead you in the right direction as far as real estate is concerned, that's a guy to go to, and you can reach out if you need to contact him. We're very glad to connect you. But I think that thank you for that contribution. And I think that there is unnecessary focus on the word debt, but we are not focusing on avoiding. Avoiding does not mean you can't take debt. Avoiding means it is not something you should be running to. And that's important. Avoiding does not mean you can't take debt. Avoiding means don't run towards it. Because like he said, and I say this to you, I'm an accountant, for those who know, all businesses make money on Excel. All, 100%. 100%. Even this mortgage we are talking about, I have run into trouble on mortgage. I have been arrested. The only time I've gone to police station in my life was on mortgage. So all businesses make money on Excel. That is why you need to be careful with debt. The idea is not you can't take it, but you must be very, very careful. Because, and the other reason why being careful with debt is important is that being wealthy is a mindset. Being wealthy is a state. It has to do with your thinking. It has to do with your capacity. That is why today, go and find, there was a time MTN gave a whole aeroplane as a prize for one competition. What have you heard about the guy that won that aeroplane since that time? A whole plane was given as prize. The guy said he couldn't fly. They converted it to cash in dollars. They gave it to him. We've not seen that money come out anywhere. Being wealthy is a state of mind. So when people try to do that, many times they are force feeding the process. And if they are not mentally, emotionally, and intellectually developed for that state, it becomes a problem. So the idea is not zero. That's why this is not saying zero debt. It says don't run towards it. People want to use debt to leverage. Then they build capacity. Then they create a scenario where they don't have the capacity to manage. But we come to that as we go along. But the bottom line is you are better off if you can grow organically. Because I've also seen businesses that don't borrow one dime. They grow organically. They are not in a hurry. They want to be in control of their growth. They want to learn. Because what happens when you don't have debt is the scale with which you can experiment is very small. So when you make your mistakes, you make it at a very small scale. Somebody who has never done something at the level of 1 cubic meter wants to do it at 1,000 cubic meter and is borrowing money to do it. It's a recipe for problem. Even though the thing could have worked for somebody who understands how to play at that scale. But that guy doesn't have that capacity. So when we speak about debt, it is not about zero debt. It's about avoiding as much as you can, be organic. And we will show the way to being organic. And when you are now organic, if you then need to do debt at your level of being organic, it is more manageable and your risk profile is lower and you can respond faster when your variables shift. But don't be deceived. Every single business that you've seen fail on the street made money on Excel when they were designing it. Big profit. The difference is between Excel and your bank account, a lot can happen that can put everybody in trouble. And that is why the advice is always avoid debt. Does anybody want to say anything about that before we move on? Or any of that about what we've said so far about building wealth, contentment, life as a journey, and this research that we've found? Any other contribution or comments on that before we move on? Okay, so let's proceed a bit. Let's start the first layer today.
I think that.
Yes, somebody's talking. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I said I think that was spot on. Like saying between what happens between the Excel sheet and the bank statement is really a lot of things goes there, because when you're trying to even profile a debt, when you're trying to get a debt to get debt facilities, there are a lot of forecasts you need to do and the likes. And really, if that forecast doesn't show that you'll be profitable or you have enough cash flows to repay, you wouldn't get it. But really, those forecasts, have a lot of assumptions that may not really happen
when push comes to shove. So I really buy into that.
In fact, I really appreciate the angle you brought to it, Omowumi, because when you are applying for that debt, and this is what you are, in fact, thank you for turning this switch on in my head. When business people or whoever is up, when they are applying for this debt, their focus is not the reality of the market, the reality of what they want to do. Their focus is what kind of numbers will make sense to the person who is going to give me the money. And whether as a result of self-deception, or as a result of being too optimistic, or as a result of downright just cooking the books, and I speak as an accountant, it can become anything. So we do the numbers and it begins to speak billions on spreadsheet. And because the lender is also interested in where to put his money, he approves. Many times they also know. That is why, if you notice, oh God, thank you Wumi for raising this point. If you notice, they won't give you money until they have collateral that is like 5-6 times whatever you are collecting, because they now know that if you are lying to us like they know you are lying, they know how to go back and catch you, collect what they're giving you, collect the interest that you're supposed to pay on top of it, and render you completely naked, if you like. So this is not, and I speak from very many years of experience. Like I said, I'm an accountant. Avoid it.
Quick one before you leave, tmak.
Yes, I know I'm coming to you. I saw your hand. Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, my last response was actually to the fact that whether debt works in the margin or
yes.
Yeah, that was my last response. Was yes. Based on my experience as well. You speak as an accountant, I speak as an experienced banker. After over 20 decades in banking, and incidentally, my last point of call was in loan recovery. I will never advise any business person to borrow money from the bank. You will wonder, after being a banker, where do we make our money from? We make our money from creating risk assets. But if you're my close friend, like I will talk to tmak, I will say, tmak, what do you need the money for? Why? Because the dynamics of the real economy are different from the dynamics, like you and Wumi have said, that is on paper. They are totally different things. So I will never, in fact, I always advise organic growth in any business. Just take it as you can munch it, right? Otherwise, at times, the deluge of the fund that you get from the bank can be what will scatter you.
Absolutely.
And most times you discover that most businesses, most facilities, unfortunately, the banker is selfish. The banker makes money from it. I said it takes some of his earnings up front. Even before he disburses the money to you, he has taken some of his earnings, right? And he has covered himself to like you said, times 5 of his of whatever is given to you, right? Of whatever is given to you. So you are just left on your own at the end of the day. Unfortunately, so that's unfortunately so, right? So I would not want to advise anybody, even my friend in me, I won't advise you to go and get facility, because it doesn't. Not even with our own environment. I know this is a larger environment, but in our own environment, the peculiarities of our environment does not even favor you going into, borrowing, particularly as an SME or as an upcoming entity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. So, and there are now, for those who are entrepreneurs here and they are wondering, these people that are raising alarm around debt, and I have ideas and I want to move. How do I move? There are other ways of getting money that doesn't have to be debt and does not have to come from the bank. So let's just go slowly, so I don't go ahead of myself, but just know that this is experience. I have bought, and I'm not telling you this because I want to tell you, I have borrowed money and I've entered trouble. And I didn't listen to those who warned me before I started. I thought I was smarter than them. If there was one point I wish I had listened, it is this matter. I was... Oh God. Anyway, we'll come to that story one day. So, but just be careful with it. The idea is not that it is zero, but don't run towards it. Now, let's get into the conversation. How do you build wealth on paid employment? And that is why I've said what we will be talking about for the next couple of weeks. Wow, it's almost 1 hour. Is the money wealth equation. money wealth equation, riches wealth equation, but I've labeled it money wealth equation because I want you to know that there is a journey to it. If you see the image I've used here, it was first a small stack of coins, then a little higher stack, then a little higher stack, until they can no longer stack it, they have to put it in a jar. How do we grow wealth? And for the next couple of weeks, we are going to be talking about it along these 4 lines. The first one is making money. How do you make the money? How do you get to the point where you are not under cash flow pressure? And I'm using these words intentionally. They're not synonymous. So when I use money and I use cash and I use cash flow and I use asset, I will even describe my own definition of asset. And then we do riches, then we do wealth. They are not meaning the same thing. We are doing very fine distinctions here. So how do you make the money? How do you get to the point where you are not under perpetual cash flow pressure? We will then move that to say, now that you have crossed the line of it is always bill after bill after bill, now that you have conquered that and you now have some money, how do you milk it? When I speak of milking the money, think of a cow. If you have ever seen how the dairy milk is produced, there's a way the milk is extracted. So it's like you walk the cow, you walk the breast to get the milk. How do you milk the money now that you have? Because this is one of the biggest points where it breaks down for the average employee and they are not aware. So how do you make the money? How do you milk the money? When you then learn how to milk the money, the next step then to say, now that I'm milking it, how do I multiply it? So think of milking as arithmetic, addition. Think of multiplying the money like the word is, it is multiplication, exponential, geometric, exponential progression. How do you get to that level? Because we are talking about wealth. At this point, you are now creating wealth. And then how do you manage it? Because it is one thing to make it. It is one thing to know how to milk it. It is one thing to also multiply it. But if you do not have the capacity to manage it, you've seen many rich people go broke. Many wealthy people go bankrupt. They have to sell this, sell this, sell this, sell this, sell this, sell this, just because of one bad deal. And there is nothing mystical about this. There's nothing magical about this. So these are the 4 buckets that we will be exploring in the weeks, in the months ahead. Unfortunately, if I say I should open the making money today, we'll be going far over the 1 hour, 1 hour, 15, 20 minutes threshold that we like to run with. So this is the last slide I'm going to use today. I will plead and invite you to make it a date with us. We try to do this once a month. So the next one, by the grace of God, will be at the end of May. But in the interim, like I will share shortly, we have a Telegram channel. John, you may want to just drop that on the group chat, please. If you have any question or need help around this, even before we get to the next session, you can just drop the message. You can drop it directly on the group, or if you want to be anonymous, you can drop it with any of the admins, and then we will drop it on the group chat and nobody will know who is asking. And if there's anything specific you want us to help with on this or any matter, because the whole idea behind HeyCoach is to provide you with an opportunity to crowdsource experience and knowledge. So we are not gambling. You are not just guessing. There's hardly anything you want to do that somebody has not done somewhere before that can share their knowledge. So the whole idea behind this initiative is to afford you that opportunity. So feel free to drop and ask questions, but we will be picking this up, God helping us spend our lives. The last Saturday of May, we will pick it up and then go into how do you make money? What is the science of making money? What are the principles behind it? And then if we may be able to take 2 in 1 month, it depends on how much the engagement is, but we'll do our best to run through this quickly. But the reality is, yes, you can. And I have no doubt at all that by the grace of God, it will be worth your while. Any final question, comments, contribution?
Tmak, when you were speaking about those factors that research showed to predispose people to making wealth, those 9 to 5 employees, it reminded me of a book, The Richest Man in Babylon.
Yes.
Are you familiar with the book?
Yes.
Do you think we could make an assignment or a point to try to read the book towards the next session?
That will be fabulous. That'll be fabulous. That'll be fabulous. Thank you for raising that. Yes, it's a very good book for this conversation. It's a very, very good book for this conversation. Even me, I will read it again. I think I've read it before, but I would like to read it again. So maybe that's also another strong invitation to join our Telegram group. The link has been shared on the chat here. But if you, for whatever reason, can't access it, and if you know anybody on the conversation, you can reach out to them. They will share it with you. We will drop a soft copy of the book there. It would be nice if you, so you have like 4 weeks, so there's no mad rush or pressure about it that should kill you. Just, again, build a rhythm around it, 1 hour every day or whatever works for you. Try and read ahead, because there is a principle to making money. We will not all go at the same rate simply because we are not starting from the same point. And this thing I'm telling you took me a while. So when I was talking about the journey, life as a journey, this is one of the awareness I've built that is stronger for me over the last couple of years. We all can be wealthy. We all can be rich if we all apply the same principles, but not at the same rate, because we are not starting from the same point. And so enjoying the journey is more important than racing to the destination. One of my uncles is late now. For those who are close to me, one of the things about me is speed. I'm very quick. I'm very, very much in a hurry. And I drive very fast. And I love to drive. And so when we are traveling together, I drive him. He sits in front. He's always holding my leg, holding my hand. Then one day, we now go to where we're going. Just come and say, Tmak, I love your driving. I love the fact that you don't have accidents. You are very careful. But I don't enjoy the journey, because when you are driving, my mouth is like this until we get to where we're going. Please, let me enjoy the journey. And that thing stayed with me. So it is not just about racing to the destination. Enjoy the journey. In fact, even when you don't have, when you are in the period of need, when you are in the planting season, there is something to be enjoyed there. It's all in the mind. And I don't want to go back to this mind conversation again, because when you trust the process and you know that I've been a farmer boy. I grew up on the farm. The planting season is tough. You are going to the farm, you carry water. You are going to the farm, you carry gari. You are going to the farm, you carry sugar. Anything you don't carry from the house, you are going to be on your own on the farm. But the harvest season is sweet. You don't need to take anything. The streams are flowing. There's so much to eat. If it's not maize, it's yam, it's pawpaw. There's something on the farm. And then when you are coming, when you were planting, you take from the house to the farm. When you are harvesting, you take from the farm back to the house. So when you understand that dynamics, during the planting season, the farmer is not agitated. He's not worried. He doesn't go to the farm unhappy, because the level of joy and excitement that he has affect the amount of work he's able to do, because he knows that everything being equal, it is for 2 months and then maize will be here. It is for 3 months and then yam will be here. And that is the same thing. When you get these principles and you start to apply them, your journey is easier. Even when it looks like there are things you want that you don't have, you are not stressed, you are not pressured, because you know it's a phase, you know it's a process, and you develop. And all of a sudden you see things you can't see, because worry, anxiety, doubt has a way of clouding our minds. We see nothing. And instead of looking up, we are looking down. When you are looking down, what can you see? So this is very heavy. This is very important. I hope you find value in the conversation. But the truth of the matter is, whether you are an entrepreneur, whether you are an employee, if you do not know the fundamentals of building wealth, the bus stop will be the same. And the corollary is also correct. Whether you are an entrepreneur or you are an employee, when you know the principles for building wealth, it is only a matter of time. It will be faster for A than B than C than D, simply because the journey is different, but everybody can build wealth. And that is a conversation we are going to be having in subsequent sessions. So thank you very much for that contribution. Any other contribution from anybody else? All right. So in the absence of any contribution, I'm happy that this is to time. So these are our socials, and feel free to connect with us so that we continue the conversation. And it would be nice to invite somebody, simply because the world will be a better place if we can all build wealth. You know, there's something I heard about, there's something we're all aware of, which is the black tax. If everybody is fine and everybody is building wealth, the amount of black tax you are paying will go down.